Hey guys, J-Man here. All right, we're doing another episode of The Amazing Fans. And today we're going to be talking about Doctor Doom, who is probably even though I don't know a lot about Doctor Doom because I didn't read a lot of Fantastic Four comics, I still have I have read quite a bit of them, and I started recently from Fantastic Four #1, and I don't know how many I've read up to now, probably like 30 something. I really like Crystal from Fantastic Four and all that. She's great. So I was hitting those issues pretty hard too. Jack Kirby obviously is the damn best, but I don't know a heck of a lot about Doctor Doom, so it's going to be interesting. I'm going to learn some stuff today, I think, as well. So we're going to talk about Doctor Doom. I'm going to bring my guest in a second. If you guys want to be a part of the Amazing Fans, let me know. Talk to me in any form. I'm on Twitter at Lifetime Nerd, or you can comment in my videos. Any video, tell me what character you want to talk about. We can talk about it. It could be a team of characters as well. Uh, it could be like a pulp hero. It could be, it doesn't have to be Marvel or DC. It could be like Snake Plissken or something. It could be Friday the 13th, Jason Voorhees, or, could be James Bond. I don't know, anything. So yeah, let me know. Okay, so I'm gonna bring in my guest. What's right now, and he is the ambassador. How's it going, dude?
Jay, man, good to see you once again, my friend, and a pleasure as always. My last time here, I had a blast, absolute blast,
Oh,
talking with you and the fellas. And I know we DM'd back and forth about this. And I was like, "Hey, Have you ever talked about Doctor Doom?" And he's like, "You're like, no." I was like, "Well, why don't we do a stream about Doctor Doom? I can, as you mentioned, you can learn a little bit about one of my favorite supervillains because, as most everybody knows, and for those who don't, those that are in the chat and everybody that is in the chat, except Extreme and Bell Reeve Mendez, good to see you both.
yes. How's it going,
Um,
guys?
he is Doom. Doctor Doom is by far one of my favorite villains for the simple fact that this is a character that really has an interesting personality and even has an interesting backstory to what he does. And not to mention, he crosses paths with so many of the characters in the MCU pantheon of heroes. I mean, by far, the one that everybody knows that he goes up against the most is the Fantastic Four. But of course, he's butted heads with Iron Man. He's gone toe to toe with Silver Surfer. He's fought Thor. He's fought quite literally everybody. Not to mention, he has on occasion teamed up with other supervillains. And for example, Kang the Conqueror, which
Oh, that was a great
right
those two.
those two right there are by far one of my most interesting um, team ups in terms of Marvel supervillains because they both have big egos, but they both have the power and the reputation to back it up because they are top tier supervillains. Now, the cool thing about Doom is the fact that he is a man who has built himself up. He has studied science and technology and the arcane arts and all sorts of disciplines within both the real and the fictional sphere that you can possibly study. I mean, this is a guy who has dedicated his life not to only ruling the nation of Latveria and being a benevolent ruler because the guy that was in charge before him was a complete and total jerk, but the reason he is always trying to amass power is the fact that he is trying to amass enough power that he can rescue the soul of his mother from Mephisto's realm. Because in the way back of his backstory, Doom's mother sold her soul or bargained her soul away to Mephisto. And ever since then, Doom has been doing everything he possibly can to rescue his mother's soul. And I think that's something that honestly is kind of lost in terms of Doom's backstory. I mean, yes, he does have a massive ego. Yes, he is a villain because he has villainous ends. He wants to conquer the world, and that is oftentimes one of his many goals. And that has obviously brought him in conflict with a lot of the MCU or the like I said, all the different Marvel heroes. And oftentimes he has fought them to a standstill or brought them to their knees. And if for those of you who don't know your Marvel history, and that's cool if you don't, there is one particular instance. It's an animated series called Secret Wars that takes place back in the 1980s, and it is a really cool, really awesome ultra crossover. It's like one of the first big crossovers of Marvel Comics. He essentially gains the power of a cosmic being, and this is something that has happened with Doctor Doom in the past, and in previous timelines and story arcs. He has succeeded in gaining cosmic power or superpowers. I mean, there's even a game, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, the first one that was on, I think, the Xbox One, the Gen 1, where he was actually the main antagonist, and he kidnaps Odin, and he siphons Odin's power off of him and becomes nigh unstoppable and nigh extremely powerful. I mean, this Doom essentially puts himself up there with the power level of the other cosmic beings. And I do want to address the chat. Bell Reef Mendez, good villain and underrated power. Yes, he is very underrated in power.
We'll get to the movies. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack right there just before. Okay, so right away, the entire thing with Doom, my knowledge of it was that him and Reed were kind of button heads.
Yes, they were rivals. They were rivals in college. There was an accident where he was very badly injured and he caused a lot of damage to the university, and he got booted out where Richards got to stay on. And eventually what Doom did is he traveled to Tibet up into the Himalayan mountains to this Tibetan monks monastery, and they realized that he was a broken man, that he was trying to mend himself and heal himself, and that's where he gained his first suit of armor. But unfortunately, due to his pride and his haste, when they made the mask, he didn't wait for it to be cooled, and he put it on when it was scalding hot, and it scarred his face. And him being kind of vain, he would refuse to show his face, even though his face, it was scarred, but it wasn't like horribly, terribly scarred. So
right, so and I remember, and I know in some flashbacks now, Marvel's famous for sort of going back, like there'd be like a 1-page origin of a character, and then 20 issues down the line they would retell this origin, and it would be sort of a little bit reworked sometimes. Hey, Gray Malkin. And a skeptic, I'll put Belle Reeves' link up if you want to her channel, because she's got some good stuff going on over there as well. I'll find that in a little bit. But and I know that. And so then they kind of told this origin again, and it's like him and his dad, sort of like surviving, and just like, I don't know if they're thieves or whatever. Like,
well, actually, Doom and his family were actually gypsies that lived in. They were gypsies, and that's where Doom learned a lot of his arcane or his mystical ability. Now he did learn more as he went on, as he got older, but that was where the foundation for his mystical abilities came from, because his armor, he not only did it give him the ability to create all sorts of force fields and energy blasts and so on, but he also, it allowed him to augment his strength to a degree. And there have actually been various iterations of Doom's armor. It went from the classic metallic form that we often see, where he actually changed it. I think it was like in the early 2000s or the mid 2000s or somewhere along in there. He actually crafted a new suit of armor that wasn't metallic. It was actually kind of a leather, but he had inscribed it with all these runes and these incantations and so on, to augment his strength, to make him powerful, and to give him the ability to cast all sorts of magical spells and so on. He almost became like a rival to Doctor Strange in a lot of ways, and he's even gone head to head with Doctor Strange from time to time. I mean, you think about a villain as imposing and as impressive as Doom, he's going to butt heads with everybody. And that's the fact. That is just the simple fact of the matter. And considering his abilities and his powers and his goals, he's obviously going to butt heads, and he's going to tangle with, and he has tangled with, and as I mentioned, he has either fought to a standstill or he has overmatched a lot of the heroes of the Marvel Universe. Now, of course, the nature of the Marvel Universe being what it is, eventually the villain does lose. But the thing about Doom is he always comes back. He always
He
comes
does.
back, which
I remember. So I mean,
Mhm,
like I always thought Doctor Doom was cool, and I have Secret Wars. I have the original
mhm,
issues of Secret Wars, which includes the first Spider-Man in the black costume. I have
mhm.
that, and I think I paid like $2 for it. So, and it's in
Dude, that's awesome.
bloody mint condition. It is bloody perfect condition.
Oh, dude, that's
Uh,
awesome.
yes, yes. And I have not only one Doctor Doom, but I have two Doctor Doom. I have my first Doctor Doom figure from Secret Wars from childhood. I have my childhood Secret Wars
Dude.
Doctor Doom figure, and then I also have another one which I bought at a toy show, not in the packaging, but complete and in
Hmm.
very good condition. The one I had as a kid is beat up because I would have Spider-Man fight Doctor Doom all the time, and to me,
Hmm.
the Kang Doctor Doom like relationship is so funny because they're literally like he's like when this is over I'm gonna kick your ass and take over, and then Kang's thinking the same thing. It's like all they want to do is like one up each other.
Pretty
And
much.
then was supervillain team up, which was was that
Mm-hmm.
would you call, I guess, is that a mini series? I guess it's a mini or like a maxi series. I think it
Um,
was quite a lot of issues, I think.
it might have been like a miniseries, or I would consider maybe a limited run.
Limited,
That's
yeah, and
how.
I've got that.
Mhm.
And I have not read that, but I actually got that because Namor is in there. I'm going to check and see how
Mhm.
many issues it is, but if I
Yeah.
can pull it up while we're talking.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll address Gray Malkin's question here. Is Doom really a villain? Yes, in certain, I would say by and large, he would be regarded as a villain, although they did do a change on his character, I think just a few years ago, where he did for a little while become like a either an anti-hero or just a pure protagonist. Um, there is one series that I remember reading. It was like from the late 90s or mid 90s called the 2099 series. And they had
Yeah,
like X
I
Men.
have Doom number 12099. I had
I
that.
used to have it. I kicked myself for ever getting rid of it. That was actually one of my favorite storylines that they did with the 2099 line was
Yep.
Doom 2099, where he got stuck in one of his time machines and he finally got released and Latveria had changed and the world had changed and he was going up against this other villain or this corporate entity called Tiger Wild. And the guy looked, he had, I think he was like genetically altered or something like that, and Doom and this guy and Tiger Wild butted heads, and eventually Doom defeated him. So, but honestly, the thing about Doom is, yes, by and large, he is considered a villain, but if you really dig into his history, if you dig into why he does what he does have an understandable motivation. He's trying to save the soul of his mother. Now, yes, he is, as I mentioned, he is first and foremost a villain. What he does for selfish ends. But here's the crazy thing. He almost has a bit of a dark side vibe to him, particularly the dark side from the Superman the Animated Series, particularly with the two-part episode where Superman goes to Apocalypse and he beats, I mean, literally beats Darkseid to a bloody pulp. And the people, and Superman is staying on the one of the balconies or whatever of his castle, and he says, "You all are free." And the people of Apocalypse have such adoration. I mean, this is their lord, this is their liege, this is their savior, and Darkseid looks back at Superman and says, "Remember, Kal-El, here I am God." And I'm kind of paraphrasing. If someone were to invade Latveria, Doom is going to do what is best, not just necessarily for himself, but for his people, because Latveria is his nation. Latveria is his home, and he will not suffer any rival coming into his home. Say, for instance, the Fantastic Four decide to invade Latveria. The people of Latveria are going to go to Doom and say, my lord, the Fantastic Four are here. Please protect us.
Right.
So it's honestly from a lot of perspectives. It depends on the perspective. From the outside world looking into Latveria, they're going to see Doom as a dictator. But everyone in Latveria, they are cared for, they are safe, they are secure, they are happy. They don't view Doom in the same way that everybody views him as just a despot or a tyrant, because he doesn't treat the people that way. Because the Baron or whoever it was that was in charge of Latveria before he took over was that way. Doom is what you might categorize as a benevolent dictator. From the point of view of the people that are under his rule, he is kind. Doom is kind. Doom is peaceable. Doom defends us, protects us with his genius. But to the outside world, all they see is the guy that tries to accumulate power and accumulate control of the world and all these other things that he does.
Yeah, and I think I had an idea what they could do for like a movie thing, which we can talk about when we get there.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, like Doctor Doom is a really interesting character, and they never really got into the magic because like he's got magic abilities too. Like they never really, I don't know, maybe now with Doctor Strange being out in MCU, maybe now they can touch more upon this. But like it was always like Doctor Doom, they never really took him as far as he could have gone where he goes in the comics, right? Like in the comics, he's a super big. Hey, Andrew, how's it going? Um, yeah, we're gonna talk about we'll get to the movies and all that as well.
Yes,
But yeah, Doctor Doom was such a cool villain. Green's my favorite color too, so I always thought he looked. My top reasons are: number one, does the guy look cool? Look, we're kids. I'm reading a comic. I want to see a villain that looks cool. He can take on multiple people at once. He creates the Doom bots. He's got magic. I mean, there's so much going on with this character, and people don't really know. If you know, you know. Like if you've watched the cartoons or if you read comics, you know. But if you're into only movies or live action depictions, we had Doctor Doom in the Roger Corman Fantastic Four, which actually he looked cool, and they had Doombots for crap's sakes. That was kind of neat. I know everyone kind of takes a piss on that movie, but like Doctor Doom looked cool in it. Like I thought he looked pretty neat. And having him team up with Namor, because Namor was always against Fantastic Four. There were 17 issues of that Marvel super villain team up. And there's 17 issues of that, and it's like just having those two guys together is cool too, because you know, like he's able to manipulate Namor a little bit, right? And you know, and then so he's got the brains, he's got the tech, he's got, you know, it's basically he's Mr. Fantastic, like evil, well, you know, sort of speak evil version, but also with magic. So you're like, well, this guy's like,
well, here's crazy. Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about Doom is he's almost like an amalgamation of Reed Richards, Doctor Strange, and to a certain degree, Tony Stark.
Right.
Because if you think about it, he's got the genius level intelligence like Reed Richards and even like Tony Stark. He's got the mechanical ability like Tony Stark. And then he's got the mystical ability like Doctor Strange. Granted, not to the level of Doctor Strange, but at times it's gotten pretty darn close to that level because, as everybody knows, Doctor Strange, depending on the storyline or the timeline, is the Sorcerer Supreme. There was even, I never got a chance to read it. I may actually pick it up. There was a time when Tony Stark died, and Doom held such a high degree of respect for Stark because he knew who Iron Man was. He knew it was Tony Stark. He held such a high degree of respect for Tony Stark after he died that Doom took on the mantle of Iron Man. It was short-lived. He did do it for a while. He was even part of something called the Future Foundation, which was like a future version of, I think, if I remember correctly, the Fantastic Four, where it was him.
Future Foundation instead of
Yeah,
Fantastic Four.
it was him and Franklin Richards, and I think a couple of other people, but I can't remember who.
Was Valeria had to have been in there, right? It was.
Possibly.
I remember Future Foundation. I didn't actually get into that
Hmm.
that much. I hit up the last time I hit Fantastic Four real hard was just this most current
Hmm.
series. And I have the first like 17, 18. I don't know what they're on now. I might be like a year behind on it, but like
Hmm.
up until that point I've had every issue. And I liked did you read the most current Fantastic Four versus X-Men where Doctor Doom has Valeria and Franklin and he's like literally prepping. Check this out.
Hmm.
This is what Doctor Doom says. This is absolutely crazy. So Doctor Doom views the mutants as, you know, people view them as threats or bad or whatever. He views them as a challenge. And he says the mutants were created in order for humanity to better themselves, to make themselves better than the mutants. He doesn't see it as like, oh, you know, the mutants are weird or whatever. He's like, oh, this is a challenge. Oh, now there's mutants.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna make something that's gonna kick the shit out of these mutants. Like he
Yes.
it's like it's a
That.
challenge to him to make something
Yes.
to beat them. That was
Well, that,
awesome. That was a great
yeah.
series.
That is neat. Well, the thing about Doom is he always views an obstacle as an opportunity. He never views it as a detriment. He views every obstacle as an opportunity for him to gain power, achieve position, or to better himself. And that is the really cool thing about Doom. That's why he has remained such a relevant villain or a relevant character in the Marvel universe. And honestly, for me, the lineup of Marvel villains is so vast, but for me,
Mhm.
my top five is pretty simple, and Doom is amongst them. It's Doom, then Thanos, then Galactus, then I'll say Kane the Conqueror, and then probably would be a good number five. Uh,
Maybe like a Doc Ock or somebody from any Spider-Man
mm,
guys.
actually,
They're too street level.
no, Doc Ock wouldn't be a bad one because regardless of the iteration, Doc Ock or Doctor Octopus has a my favorite iteration of Doctor Octopus is the cinematic version of with Alfred Molina, and also the version that we meet in the Spider-Man 2018 game. I liked those two particular versions of the character because they're somewhat sympathetic, and they are not evil men. They're just men that go down a path that changes them, but they
Right.
are eventually able to realize the error of their ways. At least, well, in both versions, where they both either sacrifice themselves or they relent, they give up. And minor spoilers if you've never played the Spider-Man 2018 game, in the game at the end, Peter does get Otto to relent and say, "I was wrong. I hurt people around you. I hurt you, and I feel remorse for it." Now, Doctor Doom wouldn't necessarily say that by any stretch, but again, he's a character that if you know his backstory, you can empathize with him. And that, for me, I think is something that is sometimes lost in Doom's lore is the fact that everything he does is for the love of his mother. He wants his mother's soul released from Mephisto, even though she will die. He at least wants her released from that realm of torment that she is in, and that's something that I think a lot of people could empathize with and respect, and
Yeah,
even understand.
and they're
If
never going to cover that in any MCU movie.
I,
That's for sure because
I
they have fear of Mephisto. They don't want to show that because he's the devil or whatever. That's like the
well,
killer for overseas.
I hope. I mean, I won't lie. I would love if they would do okay, maybe if they do the what if series, when they do the what if series when it comes out, if it is an ongoing series. I don't know what the lineup is currently for this first season or whatever, but if they ever did a what if Doctor Doom was a hero.
Yeah,
That now that would be, I think, would be really interesting. I think that would be something that people would be interested, particularly people like myself who are hardcore Marvel fans and know the Doom lore, know the character, know his history, know where he's coming from, and know what he is all about.
I think
What
the
if
what if, yeah, the what if animated series is only what if MCU stuff. It's not what if in general. Like that's what I thought too. It's like,
Mhm,
oh, it'll just be, but it's not what. It's only what if from what I know. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong.
mhm.
If anyone knows in the chat, what if is only the what if of the MCU stuff. So if Doctor
Mhm.
Doom's not an MCU, then he wouldn't be in what if. So they'd have to have him in. They'd have to introduce him
Well,
first, like
mhm.
first, and then have him, and then do something with him. But I don't know. We'll see what
well,
happens with the Fantastic Four.
something tells me you're bringing in the Fantastic Four. Eventually, Doom is going to follow.
Yeah. Do you think?
It's a natural progression. So I'm not saying they have to do it with this particular series, but if the response is good, I'll tell you right now, I'm gonna watch What If, just like I've been watching everything
I
else.
watch everything.
If the response is good and they can decide to do it as an ongoing series, and being as animated, they very conceivably can. Then if they, whenever they do introduce Doom and MCU, if you're listening, anybody who hears this, if you want to pass the word along up the chain, whenever you introduce Doctor Doom, do a what if Doctor Doom was a hero.
And you
We
could
watch
do that
it.
whole perspective from him. I what I
Yeah.
think would be neat, if
Mm-hmm.
they ever did this. We'll talk about the movies next, but
Sure.
would be
Mm-hmm.
very interesting would be if they were going to introduce Doctor Doom or Fantastic Four. I don't know what they're going to do, but what
Mm-hmm.
about this as a weird idea? They show Latveria, and they show different. It could be like a documentary, and it would be like sort of like one of those propaganda kind of films where it's
I
like
know where you're
like
going.
our,
I know where you're
our
going.
leader our leader Victor Von Doom, it's like the great accomplishments of Von Doom, and they would show, and check this out, they would show like Sokovia, and instead it's like Doom bots fighting off Ultron, and it's like he's concocted this whole thing, how he has all
Mm-hmm.
of the big events in the MCU that have happened. It's
That would
been
be
Doom.
neat.
Yeah, it's been Doom doing it, and they're like, "Wow, what a great hero!" And so it's like every time Iron Man is doing something, it's literally CGI'd with a Doom bot doing it, and it's like our ruler
Hmm.
Von Doom, saved the day and defeated the Ultron, and then it was like, and when Thanos came and the blip happened, and they show Doom helping people and giving money, and like I mean, it would be so cool to have that and literally backtrack it, and then the whole thing is that the Fantastic Four have been trapped in some alternate reality. Like Doom somehow trapped them in some alternate reality, and then they
Mm-hmm.
come back, and then they have to fight against Doom, who is so loved by Latveria that they'll never. And which would make sense with the comics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're also forgotten heroes, so you could have that entire thing, and that way you can kind of bypass. Because like I mean, we've seen the origin a few times now. We'll go through the movies now one by one, but like
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be such an, and you start the movie from Doom's perspective of him
Mm-hmm.
showing this movie about how he's rescued the Earth time and time again. I mean, I think that'd be the damn best. And so you see all the same scenes you've seen from MCU, but all the Avengers are replaced with Doom's guys. That'd be so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be interesting. I
Uh,
won't lie. Go ahead.
yeah. So So Fantastic Four number one. What are your thoughts on Doctor Doom and that?
I liked him. I did. I thought Julian McMahon was a pretty good casting for the character. I thought he portrayed the industrialist, the scientist aspect of Doom pretty well. I think honestly he was the bright point of the movie. I'm not saying the movie was awful, but at the same time, there was just something lacking, and the same thing is true in the second movie, Rise of the Silver Surfer. There was just something that was lacking. I can't quite put my finger on it per se, but I don't know if it was just. I mean, I think for the most part, the casting was good for the film. It felt like maybe the script wasn't good, wasn't strong enough. It wasn't as strong as it could have been, considering, as I've said before in other conversations with people, this is Marvel's first family. He You don't bungle this because this is such a huge part of the of the Marvel universe. This is the Fantastic Four. This is like one of the crucial cornerstones for building up um, the Marvel universe. And on two separate occasions, they bungled it. One with the early 2000s, and then the other one with the Fan Four Stick by Josh Trank. I think the director's name is. Of course, that's a whole debacle in and of itself. What I want to see is I don't want to see a goofy, cheesy adaptation, but I don't want to see a super dark, super heavy version either. I want to see a good, balanced narrative. And you don't even necessarily have to do an origin story for the Fantastic Four, because pretty much anybody who reads comic books knows the backstory of the Fantastic Four. They went into outer space and they got exposed to cosmic rays, and that's how they got their powers. You could even pick up with them a couple of years into their career as the Fantastic Four and them going on some sort of adventure. Because here's the thing about the Fantastic Four. The stories that they told in these first two movies did not feel Fantastic Four-ish. They felt very generic, to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, it was interesting with the Silver Surfer, but the stories just didn't feel like a Fantastic Four story. They weren't going on some sort of interdimensional adventure, because oftentimes that was what the Fantastic Four did. They explored different dimensions, or they explored space or whatever. They were like a team of scientists, but they were superpowered. They could handle themselves. They didn't have to call on somebody else because they could go toe to toe with whatever they came up against. But the thing for me is, in terms of what do I hope for with the Fantastic Four and eventually the introduction of Doctor Doom, is I want their introduction to have consequence. I just don't want them dumped in and go, okay, here we are. Hello, everybody. And you don't do the same thing with Doctor Doom either, because his presence in any story that he exists in instantaneously gets ratcheted up big time, because he is a big name villain. He is no joke.
Yeah, I'm thinking, like, when I saw the first movie, I thought, yeah, it's it's all right. Like, I don't have a problem with those movies really, but yeah, it didn't feel like there was really anything like spectacular going on. I would honestly I think the first movie, I would do Mole Man. I would literally do Mole Man, and have it be this underground thing where like the creatures from under are coming up to attack or whatever. I would almost follow the comics, like in sort of in like a grand way, like in a grand gesture way. Like, it's like, okay, like, yeah, the first thing is Mole Man. Do Mole Man, because if you do Doctor Doom right away, you're almost going to cheat Doctor Doom. And this is what happens, because a first movie is an origin movie. And when you have an origin movie, you need to focus on the hero to have his origin. Unless it's specific, like Red Skull and Captain America have to be in the same first movie because that's just how it goes, that's fine. Or like, like a Wonder Woman and Ares, it's like, because Wonder Woman is fighting war, that's the point of it. So like Captain America, because he's fighting Hydra and whatever, that has to automatically be Red Skull. But Fantastic Four doesn't automatically have to really be Doctor Doom, because they're not interconnected that much, where like, that's why this first movie, when they're all together and they all got powers in that ship, I thought, oh, that's kind of weird. And I know that they wanted to make it easier and say, oh, Doctor Doom's getting this electricity power and he's getting this armor, but I'm like, it takes away from his intelligence. I like the fact that he's like, I don't need, cosmic powers. It's like, I have my brain and I can create stuff that's better than what you can do.
Exactly.
And that cheapened him, right? Because it's like, oh, now he's got powers. Okay, so, well, whatever. So that's the thing. It's like, do Mole Man. And then Mole Man is a cool character, but he's not like, he doesn't need his own, heavy duty origin movie. He's not going to, and that's a great character to beat up in the first movie. And then it can introduce the Fantastic Four. Like when Spider-Man came to the MCU, they didn't redo an origin. They're just like, okay, Spider-Man's here, and you kind of know who he is already.
Yes.
And they could do that. Like, I don't know. I'm not really sure what the answer is to do, but I don't know.
you need a good tier villain for the Fantastic Four to go up against their first time out. But you don't need to bring in one of the heavy hitters. You don't need to bring in Doom. You don't need to bring in Galactus.
Yeah,
And what did they do in the first two movies? They did Doom and they did Galactus.
Galactus. Right.
And not to mention they did Galactus dirty. I mean, Galactus was not a giant cloud. You didn't have to do the original authentic design of Galactus, but you didn't need to do a giant cloud. You could have done something better. No offense.
Yeah.
The thing is, who do you get that would be good in terms of as a mid tier villain that's going to be a challenge for the Fantastic Four, but doesn't need a lot of background, or even do something that revolves around the story. Let's say let's say they go into their first film is like they go into the negative zone and they come up against Annihilus.
Right.
Now that's not a huge tier character. It's an imposing character. It would create for a good story, and it even fits into the story because, as I said, if you don't do an origin story, you can just go like I said. They're 2 years into their career as a Fantastic Four, and they're going on this expedition into the negative zone, and they come across these indications that there is this threat, and the threat turns out to be Annihilus. That right there could work. That right there could.
Yeah, so it's not like you're not wasting some. Yeah, like Galactus in the second movie is outrageous. Like that, and Silver Surfer's skeptic is saying his dad thought the cloud was better than the Purple Man. Oh well, that's your dad's wrong. I'm telling you right now.
Well, with all due respect to.
No, he's wrong. He's flat out wrong. Look, we have Thanos. And and Thanos looked like Thanos. We can get Galactus. Like when you're starting getting into these crazy characters that Marvel is introducing, like you have all these people in Guardians of the Galaxy and you have Ronan and all that. It's like we can have Galactus and he can look. Let me tell you something. A big, giant, huge guy that's like can like crush you. It's like and like devours your entire world. It's like that's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's as cool as you want to make it. Sean, how's it going? Sean, Dr. Doom. Best team up in comics. Yeah, he's kidding. Okay, yeah. Well, I think are we saying Kang and Doom is the official best team up, or are we saying or Namor? Well, Namor's not really a villain either. Namor and Doom have a lot in common where they've got their kingdoms to look after.
Exactly.
So that's an interesting. But Kang and Doom in Secret Wars is like sick. So no, your dad's wrong. We addressed that. I know the fantastic. So yeah, we talked really quickly about the Roger Corman one. I mean, so did you see that? Have you seen that?
I have actually never seen it.
So neat.
I have heard a lot about it. I may see if I can rent it somewhere, like on Amazon Prime or something like that, because I wouldn't mind checking it out at some point. But I have never actually seen it from start to finish.
I think you're gonna have to go to you're gonna have to talk to your pirate friends on that one because that's not really an official movie that's ever been released anywhere, so it's only bootleg version. I'm sure you can find it wherever you sail the seas.
Right.
Yeah, no, the fantastic that one was crazy. Like I remember buying like some bootleg VHS copies of that, and they had Doom bots and stuff. It was pretty neat. God Doom was cool. Hey, Geek Prime, how's it going, dude? Did you like Cosmic Doom from when he got the surfer powers?
If you're talking about in the movie,
the second one, yeah.
Yeah, that was actually kind of interesting because here's the thing. It introduced the Tinkerer. It introduced the scientific or technological aspect of Doom's character, and I did appreciate that because he had to create that device that siphoned off the Surfer's abilities or Surfer's powers. And yeah, I really did like that. I thought that was hella cool because it really introduced that aspect of Doom's character where he isn't just a guy with powers that he got cosmic powers from. He was a character who used his wits and his intellect and all of his vast array of talents to gain power. That for me was the coolest thing.
Yeah, he like basically tricked Surfer, and he did what I was saying, which is he doctored the footage to make it look like Surfer just randomly like attacked him or whatever. Hey Caleb, what's going on?
Caleb, good to see you.
Godspeed or God Doom? Well, God Doom, obviously. Come on.
Mhm. Yeah,
They're going to do Accurate Galactus, yes, but Fox at the time wanted, yeah, I didn't want a giant purple. I know, and it's like no Sentinels. I know, like I mean, let's strip out the fantasy sci-fi elements of a fantasy sci-fi series. It's like,
exactly.
I mean, this is the point of it. Like, it's like, well, we're going to do a Star Trek show, but you know, we don't want spaceships, we don't want monsters. It's like, okay, what do you want then? I don't, you know, it was like, it's like, I love John Pertwee. He's my favorite Doctor, but like, there's
Hmm.
that whole time, that one season or two where he's like trapped just on Earth. Now, all the aliens just came to Earth, so it didn't really matter. But it's almost like it became like a spy show with the Doctor. And I love John Pertwee. He's my favorite Doctor. But like, yeah, it was like, well, if Doctor Who's not traveling, and then they got rid of that, you know, like a season after, they're like, yeah, we got to get Doctor Who into space. Like, if he's not in
Hmm.
space, like, what's he doing? Um, you're too high. Yes, I know. You're always high, skeptic.
Because
Um,
of the high.
I know. So the answer was a cloud. They're like, they don't want a giant purple guy, but they just want a cloud, which is even more threatening than a like. Gee, like I think I'd be more threatened by a huge guy. Remember Jason the Argonauts when Talos, Man of Bronze
Hmm.
came, and he's standing there and he turns like, you're like, oh shit. I remember as a kid thinking these guys are fucking toast. It's like this thing's gonna stomp the crap out of them. And it wasn't even purple. I know it was just like a normal. I think it was supposed to be the ship because you could kind of see the outline of his helmet, and it was supposed to be like that was his ship was encased in cloud. Is that what it was supposed to be? I don't.
Maybe, maybe,
Yeah,
but
I didn't get
it
that.
didn't translate well. It just didn't.
No.
But
Yeah, I
as
know. Well, now that Thor Ragnarok has like Guardians, Thor Ragnarok, these movies have like blown the doors wide open for crazy shit to happen.
yes,
Doctor
they
Doom
really
is now
have.
going to look like a realistic character compared to the stuff that we've now seen.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see. I hope my ideal situation would be is the Doom that we see in whenever they introduce him is the character that has not just the technological aspect to his character, but also has the mystical aspect. Because that's what makes Doom a true threat. Is the fact that he can not only just beat you with technology, but he can beat you with the mystic arts, which is going to really elevate him as a character. Now, even if they don't introduce the whole aspect of him trying to gain power to rescue his mother from his mother's soul from Mephisto, and if they don't, that's fine. If they just keep him a pure villain, okay, that's cool. But think about the layering they would add to his character if they do add that aspect of his backstory in. Yes, he is evil, quote unquote, but he's got a aspect of his character that is somewhat sympathetic. You're almost making him on the level of, say, Mr. Freeze, if you're familiar with Mr. Freeze's backstory,
Yeah.
because they're
Oh yeah.
both
No, I am. Yeah.
okay. Because to me, Mr. Freeze is an interesting character, not just because of his design, but because of his story, because of his backstory. That for me is why Mr. Freeze is such an interesting and a fascinating character to explore. And I
I,
think if they go ahead,
I was gonna say, as a side note, real quick, did you
mm-hmm.
read the newer Batman issues where where he cured Nora, and then she's like, oh, you've done all these evil things to cure me, and then she got pissed off at him, and then she's like, how dare you like presume to know what I want, and then she became a worse villain than he was, and Mr. Freeze and Batman had to team up to take her down. That was in the more recent issues of Batman, not too long ago. And I'm like, oh my god, that was like super weird. It's like she was just like, yeah, screw you, buddy.
um,
That's like Doctor Doom's mom coming back, and she's like, you know what? She's like, you're an idiot or something, and then you're like, whoa, she's even worse.
yeah. I'll answer Septic streams. Septic
Which
or
one?
Skeptic.
It's
The one
Skeptic.
just before.
Yeah.
The Skeptic. Skeptic, what was Mr. Freeze's backstory before the animated series? Essentially, before the animated series, he was just kind of like a generic um, theme-based villain. They played him up really cheesy and campy in the Adam West show, and there was actually three different actors who played Mr. Freeze. It was Eli Wallach, Otto Preminger, and there was one other fella, but I can't remember his name.
I forgot. I actually liked all three
Mhm.
for different reasons. I can't remember the names of all three of them. Eli Wallach is the one I remember for sure because I know him from lots of
Yeah,
movies. But
there
like,
was the other one was Otto Preminger, but I can't remember the name of the third guy. It was George something, but I can't remember what now. It'll come to me when I don't need it to. But essentially, he was just like a cold. He was stuck in a frozen. He was stuck in a Sub-Zero suit, and he used a ray gun. That
yeah.
was the long and short of his character. Uh,
Did,
yeah, Skeptic Freeze before then was just a Captain Cold knockoff, more or less. Yeah, you could say that because their weaponry, their tactics were very much the same. But what they did, we'll get back on Jim here in a minute.
yeah.
What the writers for the animated series did, and that was primarily Paul Dini, they wanted to make Mr. Freeze more sympathetic. They didn't want to just make him a pure villain. So what they did was they introduced the concept of him being a scientist, specifically a cryogenicist, and he was trying to find a cure to the disease that was killing his wife. But until he could do that, he created the cryogenic freeze tank or technology that preserved his wife's body. And what happened with him is in the animated series is the industrialist Ferris Boyle, who was actually voiced by Mark Hamill. I learned this during my research. Um, Came in, disrupted the experiment, assaulted Freeze, and essentially caused the accident where Freeze could no longer survive outside of a Sub-Zero environment, which caused him to build his um, suit and the freeze ray and everything else that has become so iconic for Mr. Freeze. And yeah, Skeptic, the Sub-Zero movie is part of my childhood as well. It was very, very well done. I think it is currently on HBO Max.
Yeah, I've got
It's
that on DVD or whatever. I
yeah.
have any. I have everything on DVD.
Mm-hmm.
Like in whatever form, so I can always watch. Although I think I realized just today that I don't know if I have the Batman Brave and the Bold Scooby Doo team up that came out in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
I have Batman and Scooby Doo that came out, but there was one where it was specifically Brave and the Bold, and I don't know if I have that because I've got the rest of that series on Blu-ray, but I have to check that out. But
Yeah.
so Doctor Doom, what about the Fantastic Four movie, that really not great one in my opinion with Naked Thing? Um,
Yeah.
Doctor Doom, I met that actor. I've seen him in other stuff before. He was,
Mm-hmm.
I think, a pretty good choice, but then they didn't really do anything. I don't know if they
That's what
wanted
I've
to
heard.
do Doctor Doom as like Lex Luthor, where Doctor Doom is always around. Like
Mm-hmm.
Doctor Doom would be in every Fantastic Four movie, but there'd always be another villain as well. It's like one of those, like, he's always going to be a standing villain, like a Lex Luthor is. It's like there's always going to be a Lex Luthor around, but then there's always going to be another villain to challenge him as well. I don't know if that's what they were trying to plan out, and it just didn't work out that way.
Um, I didn't even bother watching the fan four stick by Josh Trank. To be honest with you, it just it. Hearing the reviews I heard and just the trailer kind of seemed underwhelming. It just it just didn't strike me as something I would be interested in. So I just passed it. I didn't watch it. I don't know a whole lot about it.
Sean,
Oh.
Steve, and I saw it in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
We all, well, I buy and see everything. So I mean, I didn't like it that much. I thought it was kind of boring. Like, to be honest, it was just kind of boring. Like Doctor
That's
Doom,
what I heard.
he seemed okay. Like, he seemed like he would have been cool, but then it just didn't really happen. His thing have a
Yeah.
thingy, anyways. Well, I think he's supposed to. On the original Secret Wars, that wasn't really good. Okay, his first task was, after getting beyond his powers, was to fix his face. Oh, right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Yeah, Steve is saying you missed nothing. I mean, well, I don't
That's
know.
what I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, I can't not watch these things. That's the thing. It's
Yeah,
like
I
I
hear you.
have to see what it is. Like my Fantastic Four collection is pretty good. I think I have everything that's come out. There may have been some. Maybe I missed one animated series or something. I'm trying to see.
Well, I
I've
know
got
they
quite
did
a
an
few
animated
stuff.
series in the 90s around the same time that they were doing X-Men. I know they did that.
I've got that
Um,
one.
but I don't know if they've done anything other than that. I know they did a limited, it was a very short run, Silver Surfer series. And
Oh,
they
that is
actually,
not available to buy, but I was able to find that.
wow. Well,
The way you find things.
well, then you may or may not know this, but the gentleman that did the voice of Galactus also did the voice of Apocalypse from the X-Men animated series.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, I actually
Mhm.
watched probably half of that Silver Surfer animated series. Is pretty damn cool, actually.
Yeah, the X-Men animated series. I don't know if you have access to Disney Plus, but it is on there.
I own everything. I own all the X-Men animated series. Yeah,
Okay,
I literally own everything. So whatever, I don't need Disney. I don't have Disney Plus because I don't need it. I
I
own
hear you.
everything on there.
It's fair.
This entire shelf, which is one, two, three, four, five sections, is
Hmm.
only superhero stuff only,
Hmm.
and that
Hmm.
doesn't even count. That doesn't count like if you count like Judge Dredd or if you count Tarzan or Flash Gordon or the Phantom or the Shadow. If you don't count
Hmm.
those guys are on a different shelf. So that doesn't even count.
Hmm.
Like this
Yeah.
entire bottom is just like Doc Savage and Flash Gordon and Phantom and who else? Defenders of the Earth, all those guys. So
Hmm.
it's like I own everything. X-Men cartoon, yeah, I got the whole thing of that for sure.
Hmm.
If you can buy it officially, I will have it. Some of the stuff you can't buy officially, and if you can't buy it officially, then I'll find it how I can find it. It's just that's how it goes. And
I
when it
hear you.
comes out officially, I'll buy it. Like if they ever do a proper Silver Surfer Blu-ray or DVD, I would get that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but well, let me ask you:
mhm.
if where would you think it would be the best fit or the best time for them to introduce Doctor Doom into the MCU?
I
Do you
mean,
think
I
they
would
should do it now, or do you think they
yes.
should do it in a year or so?
No, I think I want every okay. I don't think we're gonna discuss this on Sunday as well,
Hmm.
which is gonna be the Phase Four stuff that was shown.
Hmm.
Look, out of the Phase Four stuff that was shown, there's nothing where I'm like, holy crap, I gotta get in there. And
Hmm.
and there's all that stuff where like, look, I'm gonna watch all of it, and if it's cool, it's cool, and if it's not, I'm still gonna buy it on 4K and put it on this shelf.
Hmm.
So it's like if I bought Batwoman Blu-ray and I bought all these other trash shows, Blu-ray, I'm gonna buy this no matter what. But I think there's nothing to hook me. Like they showed the Fantastic Four thing, but that's not going to be for like forever. They need to do. I like when they had Avengers. The way the
Hmm.
MCU was before, they had a really big movie, and then they had a kind of smaller thing, right? So
Yeah.
it's like you bring out your Avengers movie, and everyone's like, "Yeah, this is sick. Avengers, we're in." And then it's like, "Well, hey, let's try out this like Guardians of the Galaxy, or let's try Ant Man or something." You do your one for sure movie that everyone's gonna be like, "Yeah, this is the bread and butter that we're all
Hmm.
watching this in the theater." And then there's like, "Let's try Ant Man." It's like, yeah, because does anyone really care about Ant Man? Maybe I don't know. Let's try and see what happens with Ant Man. And I don't see that with Phase Four. I don't see anything where this is the surefire super hit movie, and then
Hmm.
here's something else to try. It's like Eternals. Like, does is anyone? I mean, look, Eternals is cool, but like, is anyone really? You're right. It's like we're all going to see Eternals, but is that really the everyone in the world needs to go see Eternals? Like, that would have been the one that you brought out with Avengers 3, right? Like, that
Mm,
would have been the experimental one, like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like, you know,
um, I think. Well, and also it's going to depend on your particular mindset, because for me, the lineup of characters that they've got coming out are characters that I'm not very well versed in. So I will be interested to see what they do. Now, the one group that I am sort of semi familiar with is the Eternals. So I'm definitely going to go see that when it comes out in November. not just so much because of the actors that they've got in it, but because of the this is a different element of the MCU that they're bringing in. So that for me is the hook. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, that's
I'm
probably that's probably one of them.
I will definitely go see that. I cannot say that there is anything that they don't have lined up so far that I am not going to at least go check out.
Yeah,
Because
yeah. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. Finish your point.
no, because for me, it's Marvel, therefore I am invested. I am interested. I want to see what they're going to do next. I want to see what they're going to do that's going to make me interested. That's going to excite me. That's going to interest me. That's going to entertain me. That's going to bring a portion of my childhood to the big screen. That for me is the thing.
Well,
So as long as they continue to do that, I will give them my business and I will give them my time. But when I feel like it's not going anywhere or the storytelling is not as good as it should be, that's when I'm going to take a step back and reevaluate.
I think the
So,
thing is that like I'm not going to say that you and I don't count, but we kind of don't count because like I'm just going to see everything anyways, right? Like I
mhm.
saw new. I'm gonna, I went to go see New Mutants. I saw Dark Phoenix twice, right? Like I just go to see everything. So it's like it does like I don't count. It needs to be the generic person walking around,
That's true.
and it's like, do you Eternals? What? What's that? It's Marvel. Oh yeah, okay. Like it's like it's all that you need to have a big movie, and it's like there was always a Captain America around the corner, or an Iron Man, or an Avengers, or something
Mhm.
where every generic person on the streets like, yeah, I got to see that new Avengers. This is like Eternals. It's like Blade. It's like Black Widow. Black Widow maybe, but I don't even know if that's coming out in theaters now. There isn't anything.
It's
Doctor
supposed
Strange
to
2
be.
maybe. Yeah, Doctor Strange 2 maybe. But I don't feel, it's like the Marvels. It's like, whoa, okay, what? It's like nobody cares about, half the people don't like Captain Marvel the movie, and half the people don't care about it, and some people really love it. But now it's the Marvels. Do they, is that the movie you're gonna make the big money on? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But what I'm saying is that if it was just think of it this way: if it was only Ant Man and only Guardians of the Galaxy, and only like I don't know, like what's like another one that was kind of like like a Black Panther or something. If it was only these other characters and they didn't have Avengers or Captain America or Iron Man or any of those
Mhm.
coming out, those movies just would have been like, yeah, that was a cool movie. It was because they were part of MCU and you felt like, oh, I got to go watch this. It elevated those
Well,
movies.
the thing is, J-Man, um, and this is just my personal perspective on it. If the fan base is energized and interested, that's going to translate to the normies or to the general public because we're the ones that are going to say to the people who aren't familiar with all this stuff, like you and myself are. You should go check this out. This is cool. This is interesting. This is something different that the MCU is trying. And they're going in a different direction from the stories that they told before because Kevin Feige himself said they're going to be transitioning away from the earthbound heroes to more of the interdimensional and outer space heroes. That's where things for me in the MCU really get interesting. I was invested in what they were doing with phases 1 through 3. I was completely invested because they were able to hook me because with the characters they had, they got me to be interested. So I, as someone who is a very much a hardcore Marvel fan, if I say to a group of my friends who many of them aren't MCU fans but do like these movies, hey guys, I just checked out Eternals and it was really good. You should go check it out yourself. That right there is going to build interest amongst the general audience and the word will spread. I mean, let's be honest here. One person knows 10 to 20 people and that those 10 to 20 people know 100 more and it
And
spreads and it spreads and it spreads like
they
wildfire.
tell two friends, and they tell two friends. Remember Wayne's World?
Exactly.
And then they
Hey,
tell
my
two.
friend my friend that I trust said, "Hey, Eternals was really good. You should go check it out." And it just keeps growing exponentially. Um, Skeptic Stream is Adam. I'm assuming you mean Adam Warlock. I would imagine Adam Warlock is going to be introduced At some point in Phase 4, it'll probably be with Guardians Volume 3. If not, then it'll be somewhere else. But I would think, being they left that particular plot thread or end credit scene in Guardians Volume 2, it will probably be introduced and resolved in Guardians Volume 3.
Yeah, and
Now
Adam
that
Warlock
right
is
there
like,
is
it's out of his story. They're introducing him after his story ends. His story was he was the only one who could defeat Thanos in the Infinity Gauntlet. And I love that series. And Adam
I
Warlock,
did
I
too.
love Adam Warlock, and he got shafted. This is one of these things too where
Mm-hmm.
it's like people always get upset. Oh, this isn't like the comics or whatever, but they don't really get upset, do they? Because all of these movies, none of them are really the comics. Like Infinity War
No,
has nothing to do with the comic. Infinity War is the Magus making doppelgangers of all of the heroes, and they fight each other. It's like
well,
that
actually,
didn't happen.
Infinity Gauntlet was about
No,
the Infinity Gauntlet. Infinity
no,
War
Infinity
is about the
War. That's what I'm
Megas.
saying. No, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. They're calling it Infinity War, but it wasn't Infinity War. The movie's
yeah,
called Infinity War, but it has nothing to do with the Infinity War, like
yeah.
from the
I get you.
comic,
I get you. I get you.
right?
Okay.
Like, yeah. So it's like you can call it that, but that's not what it is, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not even close to what it is. It should have been called Infinity Gauntlet, and it would have been closer to what it actually was, but they didn't want to
Yes.
call it that because Infinity War sounds cooler. But they didn't do, they didn't follow it at all, and it's like, so Adam Warlock is not like, he's going to be introduced, and I don't know what he's going to do, because what's his storyline going to be now?
Well, I think honestly, if you,
Thank you, Bell.
ouch, Bell bringing the heat. Dang, tell it like it is, Bell.
Yeah,
Wow.
so we're kind of like taking a little bit of I'm taking a little bit of issue with some of the MCU stuff. Look, I loved Infinity War. I saw it a bunch of times.
Sure.
It's awesome. I loved it.
It
It's
is.
a great movie, but it's not. It's like people get angry when things don't match the comics, but they don't get angry, unless they know the comic, and nobody really knows until they're told about it after the fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they say this isn't the comics, or they use the argument this happened in the comics, but they use that argument whenever it reinforces their own opinion of what they think should happen. It's like, Superman was electric blue in the comics. Do you want to see a blue energy Superman? Like, no, right? Like, that's the weird thing about some of these things, right? So it's like, I think MCU has done a good job, though. I'll say this: it's done a good job of bringing the characters, like most of the
Mm-hmm.
characters, like the way they feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way they feel was translated pretty good, I think, for
Mm-hmm.
most of the movies. I think I would say.
Yeah. Well, the big thing for me is in terms of Am Warlock, you can do a lot with a character like him. He doesn't necessarily have to be tied specifically to the Infinity Gauntlet, because you can tell a lot of different stories, and for a long time they did tell a lot of different stories with him, because he was kind of like a cosmic being, or a spacefaring being, to be a little more accurate, and he got into all sorts of different adventures. So I think kind of detaching him from the Infinity Gauntlet storyline and maybe inserting him into a different storyline, whatever the next phase of Marvel's going to be, whatever the next big thing is going to be. I think he can be a lot of I think he can bring a lot of different interesting dynamics to whatever story that he's put into.
Unless
Let's
they do
see.
the Infinity Watch,
Which they
they could kind of
potentially
do.
potentially they could go that route if they wanted to. Um The only thing is, you've got certain characters that are in the Infinity Watch that haven't even been introduced yet. You've got Puck the dwarf. You've got Drax, but it was a different type of Drax.
Yeah.
You've got Gamora. Now, if they decide to split the Guardians of the Galaxy and they took out Drax the Destroyer and Gamora, because the two of them are part of the Infinity Watch, and it was the two of them.
Thanos.
Uh,
Thanos had one of the stones as well.
did he?
Moondragon. Yeah, yeah,
Moondragon.
Moondragon. Yeah. Adam Warlock gave one of the stones to Thanos because Thanos. Yeah, Thanos had one of them.
Okay.
Moondragon and Pip.
Pip. Yeah.
And who else am I missing? Yeah, well, Adam Warlock, Gamora, Drax, Thanos, Moondragon, Pip. Is there another one? No, that is six. There's only six stones. Yeah, that's the
Yeah. Six
six.
stones. Six of
That's
yeah.
your six characters, and you've got three. You can introduce Moondragon. You just get some bald woman, to or you could change it to Mantis if you wanted to.
That could work.
They could
That
change
could
it to
potentially work.
Mantis.
Yeah. And you could have them split. You could have them split duty as the Guardians and as the Infinity Watch. So I just want to say a quick shout out to my friend Mountains of Elysium. Good to see you, my friend, and thank you for all the support, my everything over this past week and everything. Greatly appreciated. And hey, folks, Mountains of Elysium does have a channel. He actually has a couple, and he isn't just one of my co-hosts, but he has his own channel. He does a lot of really good lore breakdowns for Star Trek and for Babylon 5 and so on. So definitely go check him out.
Is it is
He's
it is it, uh, is it just Mountains of Elysium? You think I could?
That's the name of his channel is Mountains of Elysium. Yes. Yeah. So,
Let's see if I can find it real quick while we're on here.
well,
I
and
believe this is it. I can throw a link up.
yeah, and Skeptic Stream. Well, a version of Gamora is dead. Remember, in game,
Like,
they bring her back. So Gamora is still around. They'll just have to. They're going to have to progress her character arc to where she's more amiable to the Guardians and to Peter. So, but that's definitely a route that they could take.
yeah, they'll
I
do
mean,
they'll do something. But so
mhm.
Doctor Doom, let's. I
Yeah,
think we're going to wrap up in a little bit as well.
sure.
Uh,
Yeah, that's fine.
because yeah, so Doctor Doom. I mean, if we bring him in,
Hmm.
he's got to be like the next big. Like I mean, it's tough because Thanos. Like after Thanos, who's it gonna really be? Is it gonna be Galactus? Like if it's gonna be Galactus, we need to have Fantastic Four, and we need
Hmm.
to have
Exactly.
Fantastic Four introduced fast, and we need to have them have a few movies under their belt before we
Exactly.
even get the Galactus. So Kang is going to be in Ant-Man,
Quantumania. Yeah.
Quantumania. So that could be maybe one of the MCU Phase 4
Well,
movies that gets a little bit more hype behind it because Kang is like a pretty cool character also.
yeah. Well, and here's the thing: you bring in Kang, you eventually can bring in Doom. Now, here's the thing that they could potentially do if they decide to. I mean, granted, yes, you had one main antagonist, that being Thanos, but you had several smaller antagonists that still had weight. What they could do is if this is going to be wrapped around a multi-dimensional and multi-time paradigm in terms of the next stage of the MCU, you can introduce multiple villains and it would work. Because you could have Kang, you could have Doom, and then you could potentially have Galactus.
Yeah, but we need to get Fantastic Four out there fast.
Fantastic Four is the key. Now, as I've mentioned before in discussions and so on that I've had on other channels and whatnot, if you're going to bring in Doom and you're going to bring in Kang and you're going to bring in the Fantastic Four, you got to figure out what's the simplest, easiest way to do this. It is through the multiverse dynamic. You've already established that there are multiple dimensions or multiple realities. There could be a reality where the Fantastic Four exists. There could be a reality where the X-Men exists, and so on. And the thing is, for Doctor Doom, he, like I've mentioned, he butts heads with all sorts of different heroes. It's not just one group or one particular hero. He's butted heads with all of them, pretty much.
Mhm.
So you introduce the multiverse, which you've already done. You introduce or you bring in the Fantastic Four from an alternate dimension or an alternate reality. You bring in the X-Men from alternate universe or alternate reality into the main MCU storyline, and poof, now you've got access to all their villains. You've got access to all those storylines and plot threads and characters and everything else that comes with them. And with the Fantastic Four, you've got Doom and Kang because the Fantastic Four has gone up against Kang, but he's also gone up against the Avengers.
Yep.
Same thing with Doctor Doom. With X-Men, you've got everybody, and I mean quite literally everybody that is in their rogues gallery. You've got Magneto, you've got Mr. Sinister, you've got Apocalypse, you've got Onslaught. You name it, you've got it with the X-Men.
Yeah, X-Men's going to be crazy. See, this is the thing. It's like, this is why, like, I don't know, the Phase 4 stuff, there needed to be either a Fantastic Four or an X-Men heavy duty thing. Like, because the first few phases was all about Avengers and getting everybody together for the Avengers. This next thing doesn't have, it just has random movies right now. So that's my thing, where it's like every movie sort of focused around Avengers. Iron Man, Thor, Captain America had their own movies. They're all part of Avengers. So you got to see the event. And if you didn't like, I don't like Iron Man 2 and 3 that much. But I like Iron Man in the Avengers movies, but not so much in his own movies, except for the first one. So this was, what was cool is that I didn't really feel like, I mean, I watched them, obviously I've seen them both at least a couple times, 2 and 3, but I was able to get my Iron Man fix from watching Avengers, right? So I thought that was kind of cool. Same with Thor. I didn't particularly care that much about the first Thor movies either, but I like Thor, but it was cool to see him in Avengers movies. Now I liked all the Captain America movies, so that's fine. But that was the cool thing about it, where you'd have one movie where it's like, oh, it's just this guy, but then he'll return in this movie, and then they're all together. And Phase 4 doesn't have anything like that, where there's going to be a couple of movies where everyone's going to be together. I don't know if that should have been Fantastic Four or X-Men or something, but it just feels like there's a team missing.
Well, give them time. I would say that they probably have in the works a big crossover film. That will come because you're introducing the next group of characters, like we've mentioned, that are lesser known heroes, lesser known characters, but have the potential that they could do a team up. That and everything that will eventually come. It's just they've got to get there. I mean, yeah, granted, the first 3 phases of the MCU were both random and formulaic at the same time, where you were introduced to a character and then another character and then another character, and then bam, you've got a group of them going up against a big threat. I would say give them a year or so to introduce these new characters, and not to mention they're introducing characters through the Disney Plus shows as well.
Yeah.
So that's where they're also introducing characters, because you could have the new Avengers be Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, some form of the Guardians, either Thor or female Thor. What's her name?
I can't stand her, so no, but okay.
Okay.
Anyone but her. I absolutely despise that character in the MCU. I couldn't stand her in comics either. I know, yeah. What's her name? Jane Foster. I can't. Jane Foster Thor is like the stuff of nightmares for me. I just can't take her. But I'm still gonna watch the movie because I like Thor Ragnarok, so I'm gonna be there for that. But yeah, I think they should have done West Coast. They had White Vision set up. They have Wanda set up. They have Hawkeye set up. They had War Machine set up. You could have thrown in Sharon Carter if you didn't have, because Mockingbird, that actress, went on to the Orville. So it's like you had a lot of guys set up, but they just like they're just like, well, we're just gonna have Kate Bishop, who, like, she's okay, but like, does anyone really care about Kate Bishop? I don't think so. I think she's okay, but she ain't Hawkeye. Hawkeye's one of my faves. I don't know. I feel like they need to do something. I'm still gonna watch everything. We'll see how it goes. I just wish that there was something where I was like, because I'm looking forward to Shang. Look, I like Shang-Chi. I'll watch Eternals for sure. I'm gonna watch everything, and I'm cool with all of it. But there's nothing where I'm like, oh, damn it, man, we gotta start pre-order those tickets like right now. Maybe Doctor Strange 2, just because it's Sam Raimi. But
the thing I would say is give it time, because I will say it even for myself. The first few phases of the MCU, I wasn't like, I have to buy tickets now. It wasn't until much later on, as the movies really got going, that I was like, honey, we need to pre-order tickets. She's like, okay, we're pre-ordering tickets. I say, I understand where you're coming from, J-Man. I'm not trying to dismiss anything that you're saying. But what I'm saying is, give it time. give them a chance to get some momentum going. I mean, granted, they've had momentum. They took some time off to give everybody a chance to breathe because we've been on this thing from 2008 to 2019, 11 years. That's a lot of investment, and they gave everybody a year off to catch their breath
Yeah,
and just kind of decompress from what we had just been through. So give them time. I know you're going to go see everything, so I say set
yeah.
yourself up to be surprised because
Oh,
they
yeah.
very well could surprise you.
The thing is, I like everything. Like, even when
Yeah.
I don't like, so when I don't like something,
Hmm.
I, I still like it more than most people. So I don't like Iron Man, for example. Okay, so I'm not a big fan of Iron Man. However, I have every cartoon series of Iron Man. I have every movie on 4K. I have a statue of Iron Man that's this big. I have
Hmm.
figures of Iron Man. I have a figure of Iron Man right there. I have Tales of Suspense.
Hmm.
Whatever the first Hawkeye appearance is over there, that was still an Iron Man mostly kind of book. I have tons of pop vinyls of Iron Man. I had a shirt. I had
Exactly.
two shirts of Iron Man, and that's me not liking Iron Man. So I'm like, I don't like Iron Man that much. And they're like, well, it looks like you're a fan of Iron Man. I'm like, no, I don't like him that much. So even when I don't like somebody that much, I still have t-shirts and posters and toys. So that's the thing. It's like when I'm talking about like something, it's more like how much am I dying over it? Like, it's like even when I don't like something, and Sean and Steve know this, like we always bitch about everything. And if we're bitching about something, that doesn't mean that we're hating it, right? Like if someone in the outside world out of this fandom came up
Hmm.
to me and it's
I
like, oh,
follow you.
Iron Man is trash, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Iron Man's trash? Like, you don't know what you're talking about. And I will defend Iron Man. But then when someone in fandom's like, Iron Man's my favorite, I'm like, really? He's not that great. It's like depending on who you, it depends on how much. If I have respect for you and you like Iron Man, I'm going to tell you I don't like Iron Man. But if you're a normie who's like, oh, Iron Man sucks, I'm going to fight you. I'm going to be like, no, 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 you're wrong. Iron Man is a great character. And then secretly I'm thinking, yeah, he's not that great, but I want Iron Man to look good in the eyes of people.
Yes, I kind of get what you're saying.
Yeah,
So it does make a sense in kind of a screwball kind of way, but I get it.
yeah,
But the big thing for me, kind of wrap this up because I know you said you want to wrap up soon.
yeah.
The thing for me is if they're going to introduce Doom in Phase 4, give him the respect that a character of his caliber is due. And for the love of forgive me, forgive me, Lord, for what I'm about to say. For the love of God,
Yeah.
cast a actor who can portray the character well. That for me is the biggest thing. I'm not saying Julian McMahon didn't do a good job. Julian McMahon did a fairly decent job with what he was given. But this new Doom, whoever they get, and I know there has been rumors and fan castings of Giancarlo Esposito, Moff Gideon from The Mandalorian as Doctor Doom. If they decide to go that route, I will be in full support of it because Giancarlo Esposito has played villains numerous times now, and I've seen clips of him from Breaking Bad and You Better Call Saul, I think it is, and
I've seen
obviously
all
seen
those.
him.
Yeah.
I've seen him as Moff Gideon from Mandalorian. He has impressed me. So if they decide to go with him as the new Doctor Doom, good job.
I
Now
think I,
give
I
him
think you need a good voice. Because for me, I would
and
like to see Doctor Doom be in the helmet all the time, like a Darth Vader.
and yeah, and Giancarlo Esposito has an imposing and an intimidating voice. And if they need to do some sort of modulation to it, they can do that. But his voice just on its own does command respect. He doesn't need to be CGI character. He needs to be a
No,
in the flesh in that space character. But make his costume believable, but let it pay homage. It doesn't have to be a panel for panel, frame for frame replica of Doctor Doom's armor, but let it pay homage to that.
I
I
think
would say
Iron
the
Man
one
did
thing.
pretty good. Like the way
Hmm?
they do the Iron Man costumes are pretty good.
Yes. So whether they go which depending on what variation of Doom, whether it is the technology is the crossbreed, um, the scientific and the mystical version of Doom. If they go that route, that would work. What if his mask was just face paint? No, no, a skeptic that
He's
will
he's high. He's high. He's high. Every time he
no,
comes on the stream, he's high.
no,
That's why he says foolish
that
things.
no, no, his that mask is iconic.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about certain icons or images from the Marvel universe. One of those icons is Doom's mask. That is an image that puts fear in people's minds. That is an image of power, of intimidation, of respect. They need to keep at least that portion of the mask relatively faithful. It doesn't have to be the shiny chrome, but it needs to bear that menacing glare. And even if you don't show his eyes, even if the eyes are covered by some sort of lens or whatever, that's fine too.
Mm.
But they need to keep that mask. And as you said, they need someone that has an imposing voice. And I think, like I said, I think Giancarlo Esposito. I know that's the fan cast. That is a fan cast I would support. I can't really think of anyone else at this particular moment that could probably do Doom as well as him. Maybe, although he's already played a villain once, perhaps Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah,
Who
I've heard his name thrown around for a lot of. He's great. His brother is great too. If you've seen Sherlock, his brother was the villain in one of the Sherlock, the Benedict
Hannibal.
Cumberbatch
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sherlock's. He was one of the villains in that. He was awesome. His brother's good too. But yeah, Mads is great. But he was the villain in Doctor
Doctor
Strange.
Strange ones, yeah.
So
So,
it's like again, it's like, can you bring him back? I don't know. I mean, if it's just going to be a voice, or if it's just going to be flashback Doctor Doom to show how he became Doctor Doom, I
mhm.
guess it doesn't really matter if the voice is there.
Or just if they even want to go, ooh, William Dafoe is Doom. The problem is he's already done Green Goblin, and he did I think he was a very good Green Goblin in the first Spider-Man with Maguire.
Yeah, he's
I know it's
great.
kind of yeah. He very much played up that mania and that derangement of Osborn being his mind being altered by that chemical. I think he did a very good job. The question is, are you going to have someone in a suit and then have the voice dubbed in? If that is the case, then you can probably you could get just about anyone that has a good voice acting repertoire to do the voice of Doom, and then just have it, well, essentially be like what they did with Darth Vader. You had
Right.
David Prowse in the suit
Yep.
and him doing the dialogue, the fill in dialogue, so that everybody knew what he was saying, and then you dub in James Earl Jones later for Vader. You could do the same thing with Doom here. It's been done. It is doable, and it comes off as very believable.
I think they could do it.
So,
They need to have the things for Doom for me is you need to have obviously the mask, you need to have
mhm,
the green hood and the cape, and then after that you can start to you want to make it more armory, or do you want to make it more like an Iron Man suit where it's like he can like
mhm,
walk into it or what, and
mhm.
like it forms on him.
Yeah,
They could do something like that. The mask is key. You need the green hood. Like to me, it's like the green hood and the cape, and I even like the like
the two. I know what you're talking about. The two bolts right there.
the bolts, right? Yeah, holding
Yeah,
it.
that hold the cape in place. Yeah.
I mean, that's
Um.
sick. The Doombots
Yeah.
don't need to have capes and all that. The Doombots could just be like Ultron bots, but with Doom's
Mhm.
mask, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like. You could easily do this. Like this isn't that crazy anymore. Doom must.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Geeks, I wholeheartedly agree. Doom must be menacing. I agree. That I said that earlier during our discussion. Doom must be menacing if he's going to be a character that's going to command and demand respect. And this is like I said, this is one of my favorite characters from Marvel.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
the,
Doom is a great villain.
yes.
They need to do him justice. They didn't do him justice in the other movies, whether or not there were some good parts about him or not.
Mhm.
I never felt that he was that threatening. I like the actor, and he looked not too bad. He actually didn't look too bad in those movies, but I just didn't feel like he was like when Doom shows up, you're supposed to be like, holy shit, like this is like that's it, man. Doom is here. He's gonna destroy everybody. And I just didn't get that. I thought, oh, there's Doom, that's cool, and then they'll fight him. Like he should like be like destroying people, and like and then
Mhm.
if he's about to get captured, he escapes somehow or whatever. Like,
Yes. He
you know,
always has a backup plan.
right. That's his thing. Skeptic, Daredevil, Moon Knight. Oh, for Zack Snyder doing I
Yeah,
mean,
maybe.
maybe one of those characters, maybe like Moon Knight might be interesting. The Vader was a
Do you
home.
think the Vader
You know
table
what?
stay?
What do
I
you think
didn't
about
honestly
that?
think about that. That never really honestly crossed my mind, but perhaps. I mean, we're talking about George Lucas. He could be a fan of Doctor Doom. We just didn't know it.
He's a nerd because he likes all the old serials and stuff, which
Yes.
I'm like, I'm just rewatching them all again. I love them all. Alec
Mhm.
Baldwin, that'd be an interesting
As the
Marvel
voice,
villain. Yeah,
okay, it depends on which voice you get. If you're going, okay, Alec, do menacing, do frightening, do scary. He can do that. You don't want comedic Alec Baldwin. You want voice actor menacing, creepy, frightening Alec Baldwin. You want that voice. That could work.
yeah, and I mean, he could like, and again, they're gonna do like some filtering, right? Like
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
behind the mask, right? So I mean, they could do that. They look the
Yes.
same. Yeah, Vader and thing do the actor from yeah, Nick Tuck. Yeah, Doom. Yeah, Doom is awesome. Um, do Matt? No, I know. We were talking so earlier on. We were talking about that. They never seem
Yes.
to throw in the magic element, and it seems
Yeah.
like it's like one of these weird forgotten things. Like it's like, oh yeah, he can do magic. What happened with that?
Oh, geeks.
Jeremy Irons.
Oh
That might
my
be pretty good.
gosh. And as a voice, that could work.
Yeah, Jeremy Irons is awesome.
That could so work.
He's got a weird kind of not raspy, but there's a little bit of a
That could.
weirdness.
Dang, geeks. Yes. I can
Yeah, that'd be
hear it
sick.
in my head. And I just gotta chill and I like it. Oh, geeks. Yes.
Yeah, so he's
Oh
supposed to be
man.
Thomas Wayne. Yes, I think I remember that huge Doctor Who. Yeah, so yeah, obviously you've been thinking about this.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Pierre
Peter,
Skarsgård. I'd have to look him up because I don't remember what
I
he's
mean,
been.
I mean, that's not the Tarzan guy, is it? Or is that a different? Oh,
Uh,
that's the other Skarsgård. There's too many of these Skarsgård. Peter Skarsgård. Let's see what he looks like.
hmm.
I'm not going to share my screen.
No, that's fine.
Oh yeah. I know him. But
What was he?
he was Hector Hammond in Green Lantern.
Okay. I think I know who you're talking about.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that was
Yeah.
him. Let me just look it up to make sure I'm not lying here because I know him from some other stuff as well.
Okay. The villain from Green Lantern. Yeah. I know who you're talking about now. Yeah, he could work.
What year was Green Lantern? Yeah, Green Lantern. He was Hector Hammond. Yeah.
2011.
Yeah.
I
No,
remember
I
that.
confirm that was him. I just looked it up. Mr.
Doctor
Sinister
Doom.
is awesome too. I know they got to do
Oh,
something with him.
if they ever, well, we kind of got a little bit of Mister Sinister in New Mutants and in Logan, but we haven't gotten full on Mister Sinister
Yeah.
now. If they ever do full on Mister Sinister, of course, that's going to require whenever they bring the X Men into um, the MCU. That's going to require some groundwork because Mister Sinister has a very intriguing backstory. A very, very intriguing backstory that's actually tied into Apocalypse.
Yeah. Apocalypse coming would just be like absolutely insane. Like he would be
I
the
will,
greatest ever. Not the
I will,
crappy apocalypse of the
actually, I kind of like that Apocalypse. I think he was pretty good.
I don't
But
know.
that's me.
he didn't look very like when I think about Apocalypse, I think about this huge mega beast man who's like this
Hmm.
big powerful guy, and it was just that guy. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't feel
You
like
know,
he
I
was that
get that.
threatening. Like,
And I get that, and I understand. I do. Everything. But for me, I went and saw the movie. We have it on Blu-ray. I think I actually have it on steel case. I'll have to. No, I have Days of Future Past in steel case. I don't have Apocalypse in steel case.
yep, I've got it, of
But,
course.
yeah, we need someone. We need someone that's British to voice Doctor Doom. They can pull off the evil, dark voice. Yeah, and I think if he would be willing to do it, I think Jeremy Irons would be a pretty good pick. I think.
Burt
Um,
Ward. I
yeah,
met
you're
Burt Ward.
definitely high.
I've met Burt Ward. I have his autograph over there,
Cool,
and
dude.
I love Burt Ward. He's great. I love Robin. I have a keychain of Robin. Robin's one of my like favorite. I have almost not every Robin figure they've ever made, but I have a representation of every Robin
Hmm.
from almost every toy line. Um,
And I'll
Robin
tell.
Flick the most incredible. Yeah, Steve and I were not, and I don't know if Sean was. I can't remember
Hey,
if I talked about it with Sean.
mhm.
Um, it's a fun movie just to watch
It
as just
is.
like
I
you know.
honestly enjoyed it. I think it was a pretty good ad. I think it was a pretty good film myself. I mean, that's me, of course, but I did enjoy it. So, and I'll tell Belle. I'll tell you this. I've never actually shared a picture of this on Instagram or anything, but I actually have a Mister Sinister Funko Pop, and it's actually the design from the '90s cartoon.
Yeah, I've
Because I
seen it.
saw that and I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to have that. I've got him. I've got a Funko of Doctor Doom. I've got a
I've
Funko
got
of
that too.
Galactus. I've got a Funko of Galactus. I've got a Funko of Gambit because I was like, I like the design. I liked how they had the cards and actually like the
Yeah, it's like
yeah,
they're
and he's
coming out
flinging
or
them.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mark Zuckerberg as the villain of the cyborg.
he's
Dude,
just
I'm
it's
just
like,
going to skeptic. I'm just going to ignore you.
oh,
No
you're
offense, but I'm
getting
going to ignore.
ignored. That's it.
I
It's
don't talk
over.
to. I don't talk to potheads. I'm kidding. I kid. I did. I tease.
We were making fun of Skeptic last night pretty bad. So we're gonna give him a pass tonight because he's a
We'll
good
give him a
guy
pat.
and
Yeah,
we're
he's
fans of him. And he's in
yes.
Canada, so we got to support our Canadian brothers. So we support our
Well,
Canadian brothers.
as I think I mentioned the first time I was ever on your channel, I'm like a quarter Canadian. So yeah.
That's good enough. Listen, we'll take it. We'll take it. We'll take it. We're it's like yeah, we're super cool with everybody. Doctor Doom introduced
Yeah.
in Wakanda Forever. I don't want that actually. I don't
No,
want that at
that's not
all.
a bad idea, but it's too soon. It's
Yeah.
way too soon. I mean, yeah, you could potentially do that because Wakanda, Latveria, you've
Yep.
got two nations that are very diametrically opposed to one another. So you could make a reference to Latveria and kind of build from there and go and start to slowly bring Doom in that route. But you don't want to like a full on screen Doctor Doom. Like, okay, maybe just a theoretical if they were going to do it or if I was going to do it, have Latveria referenced and then maybe have just a little mid credit scene where you see a zoom in of a castle and you go through a window and you see a figure seated in a throne looking at like a giant view screen or something like that and that is like just a little wink and a nod. Doom is here.
So Sean is saying I'm just gonna Lifetime Nerd is my Twitter. Just putting that up there. But Sean is saying you think yeah. So like yeah. So that's sort of what you were just exactly just now saying, where it's like they
Yeah.
just kind of have a little
You
bit.
don't want to bring it full. You don't want to bring him full in, but just a little wink and a nod saying, hey, everybody, you like Doctor Doom? He's coming.
So if you already have him there, though, then you're going to be saying that the Fantastic Four are already there, though, right? Because like,
Maybe. Well, it's a double-edged sword
yeah,
because you can potentially bring Doom in here, but if you do that, then yes, you're going to have to establish where has the Fantastic Four been all this time, unless it's a Latveria in a different dimension. That's where you can wiggle around it.
Yeah, you could try. We're gonna have to see how this plays out and what they're thinking. I don't know if they got the Fantastic Four rights too not fast enough or too late for them to start production. Like I would have like literally, I'm thinking the second we got Fantastic Four, I would have been like, we're doing Fantastic Four. Like for like whatever movies were already in production, fine, we'll finish those movies. And if stuff like Black Widow was already done and Shang-Chi was already done, all that stuff. But I would have not been producing or announcing anything new except for friggin' Fantastic Four and, Phase 4, Fantastic Four. Like, it's like Phase 4, Fantastic Four. This is like, it was fate for it to happen in this way. They should be all over this. Like that 4 at the end of that little trailer that they showed.
I was like,
and it's like, look, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, okay, now the goosebumps are here. This is what I'm looking for right now. Fantastic Four, here we go. Not even X-Men as much because there's been a lot of X-Men stuff already. Some good, some bad, and some people like all of it. So it doesn't matter. But Fantastic Four has always been on. My wife happens to really like the first 2 movies because she thinks they're a lot of fun and there's some neat elements. And she doesn't read comics. She doesn't read American comics. She only reads manga. So to her, it's like, oh, this is a fun movie, right? Yeah. She reads tons of manga. It's like as much as I'm reading superhero stuff, she's reading that much manga, and she's like, she loved Fantastic Four. She's like, they're great movies. She bought them herself. We before we were married, we had separate collections. So I actually have like multiple copies of movies that I would show her, and then she would buy them. And so then I ended up, she just gave them all back. She gave them to me, and I'm like, I ended up having like, multiple copies of everything. But exactly. So it's like, but Fantastic Four never had something that united. Like everyone likes Avengers, we need a Fantastic Four to unite everybody, where the fans, like general MCU fans like it, Fantastic Four fans like it. It needs to be a general audience thing where everyone likes it, not a niche crowd where 1 out of every 3 film goers likes it. Oh, I read the comics, so I like it. No. I read the comics, so I like it doesn't mean there's going to be, markets flooded with T-shirts and toys. Now, Funkos, I literally have every single one that came out for the Fantastic Four line. I have all the 4. I have duplicates of all 4. And I've got Doctor Doom and Galactus and Mole Man and Silver Surfer and who else came out? I don't know. Whoever the robot Robbie. What was it? No, what was the robot? Not Robbie the robot.
Kirby.
Herbie. Yeah, Herbie.
Herbie.
Yeah,
it's Herbie. Yeah.
So I've got him. I literally have a Funko of every single one of those that came out. I was like all over that. Where are we at here? Maybe advanced weapons testing for small limit. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you can. Oh, thanks, Geeks. I appreciate that. And you can check out who I follow as well because I follow Ambassador. We're gonna plug. And Ambassador's link is in the description of this video. This video will publish to YouTube, and that's why I try to keep these. I don't want to make these too long because I want people to go back and watch them again.
Exactly.
These are meant for us to talk about a Doctor Doom character, not to live stream for 5 hours and have people. We are going to address the chat obviously because we don't want to be rude.
Oh yeah, totally.
Chris Harris, come back, Joy Storm. I don't know. Yeah, they're guilty pleasure.
Yeah, they are. And with Fantastic Four, Marvel now has rights to a whole package of characters: Surfer, Kang, Annihilus, Galactus, etc., etc., etc. Yep.
An Ambassador throwing that out as Annihilus, that'd be kind of really cool. And Ant-Man 3 is already going to use him, so that's pretty awesome. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, we've got. So I don't know which one. I can pull out my Fantastic Fours if they're not too hard to get to. I'm trying to see where they are.
Really appreciate that.
Yeah, they're all like they're kind of buried, so I don't want to go grab them. But
no, that's fine, dude. That's fine.
All right, okay. So I'm gonna end it off with you. Let's put you on, and do you want it? Well, I've got your link in the description for your thing. Do you want me to? Do you use Twitter a lot or not really?
I do use Twitter. I use Instagram. I do use Facebook from time to time because I have an alternate account separate. But I use more often than not, I use Twitter and I use Instagram more than anything to put out. I'll post pictures. I'll put out announcements and so on. And you can DM me. My DMs are open if anyone ever wants to get in contact with me. My DMs are open to where people can message me if you ever want to say, "Hey, Ambassador, I'd like to come on your channel," or "Hey, I'd like to have you on mine," whatever the case. Or I do take suggestions for content for my channel, as long as it's modern or retro, and I think it's something everybody will enjoy. I will absolutely discuss it on my channel. I mean, just a couple weeks ago, I celebrated 400 subscribers, and I did a watch party and for The Last Starfighter, a favorite movie of mine, and we did karaoke afterwards. Had a great time. I'm going to be getting back into streaming next week because I had to take some time off for personal reasons, everything involving my mother's health. But I will be back next week. I'm going to be doing a couple of live streams. I'll be continuing my review of Babylon 5 with my friends, what I call the Council of the Ones, and one of the council members was in here earlier, Mountains of Elysium. I'm going to be doing another stream on. I'm going to be doing a couple of review streams, or I might just combine and do one stream and do kind of a long one, just to kind of catch up. Of two favorite movies of mine, and that's going to be Men in Black and Zoolander.
Oh man, Zoolander's great. And Last Starfighter is the damn best. I wish those toys that it would have come out, man. I keep looking at that page of toys. I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to have these. Okay, so your Twitter, that's your Twitter. That's
that is my Twitter.
That's probably the easiest for people to copy paste or just to do.
Well, I think Bell I think you recently followed me on Instagram because I know I follow you because I follow Truth, and so on and everything.
Yeah, we're all
I follow
connected.
people. Yeah, we're all connected one way or another. So, but yeah, follow me on Twitter, and like I said, my DMs are open. If you ever want to message me, just about, hey, how you doing, or hey, can you cover this on your channel, or hey, I'd like to be on your channel, or whatever. My door is always open. If I don't get to you the next day, then I will get to you as soon as possible. Bell, my Twitter is
a couple of comments above.
Yeah, it's right. It's right here on the screen. It's at Ambassador Kosh 7. That's my Twitter. And a little quick history lesson. Why did I pick that as my Twitter handle? Ambassador Kosh is a character from Babylon 5 that is by far my favorite character from Babylon 5. He is this very old, very wise, very sage-like, very Yoda-esque type of character that has lived for millennia, and he sometimes talks in riddles, and I sometimes do that myself. But it was a character that I very much resonate with, and it's a character I really enjoy. It was one of the very first videos I ever covered a character on for my channel. I did a whole breakdown of all the characters from Babylon 5, and now we're talking about the series proper itself, and it's been. I used to watch Babylon 5 when I was a kid. Bell, if you have HBO Max, the seasons 1 through 5 of Babylon 5 are on there currently. They did a graphic remaster of the digital effects for B5. It looks a lot better. They didn't change anything else. They just remastered the special effects. So if you
Star Trek as well too.
Yes, if you are a fan of Star Trek, you will enjoy Babylon 5.
So no need to tell you, I own Babylon 5, the collection. So
I do too.
I never watched it yet.
Dude, you should.
I know. What happened was I just bought it because I was like, well, I should just have this because it's like a famous one. And then I'm trying to get, my wife and I are going through all of these. So the next one up is probably Battlestar Galactica, the new Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, that'll be a lot of fun.
I have all of Battlestar Galactica, and I even have the new one, and the old one, the new one, and that, what was that called? That other series? It was Battlestar Galactica. It was
Caprica.
Caprica. I've got that too.
I loved Caprica.
Yeah,
I loved that show.
I liked it.
Yeah, great cast. I wish they had done a season 2. They set up where they were going to. I think they were potentially going to do a season 2, but unfortunately, as sci-fi often does, they didn't.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up there because I want to keep this I do get a lot of rewatch. I do get a lot of viewers come back to rewatch these. Unlike live streams, which are usually just their one-offs. So, all right, thanks so much for coming on, Ambassador. This was awesome. So you guys make sure to subscribe and follow him. And
always a pleasure.
Awesome, yeah. So I'm just gonna put you in the backstage for just a minute, okay? And then we'll talk again. All right. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This was great.
Always a pleasure.
All right, take care.
Yep, you too.
All right, guys. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for this week. If you guys want to be on the Amazing Fans, you want to talk about any kind of hero, whatever you want, message me, tweet me, whatever, and we'll figure something out. And that's it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Sunday night at 6:30 Eastern. We're gonna talk about Phase 4 and Bad Batch and whatever else we want to talk about. Snyder cuts and air cuts and all that other stuff. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. See ya.